I think that there are several components to a good story, and I think that lectures are like good stories, so they have similar kinds of components. First, good lectures, like good stories, follow a prepared script. I never walk into the classroom without knowing exactly what I'm going to do. In fact, I typically will write out longhand or type out longhand, if that's a proper English, exactly what I'm going to say. I may not follow the script exactly, but I have a very clear idea of what's going to happen. Second thing about good storytelling, I think, is that although there should be a clear script, the audience should never be aware of the script. It has to remain invisible. I mean, I've thought about what I wanted to say to you today. I hope that my replies nonetheless seem spontaneous. Similarly in the classroom, although there's a lot of preparation that goes into it, spontaneity is always more enjoyable and enlivening, I think. So the second rule, I think, is although you've got a script, don't let it appear to exist. Third, and I think some people in literature may disagree with me on this, but I like stories that have a beginning, a middle, and an end. I like to make a big dramatic point at the outset, often by relating an anecdote, a personal anecdote, or an historical anecdote or something. And I like that. I want that anecdote to sort of summarize the main idea of the entire lecture. And then I take off from that and develop the point. And I'll refer back as I develop the point, as I develop the theme, to that story at the beginning. And at the end, I always try to make some kind of summary conclusion, a summary statement that will review the major points that I've made in order to reinforce the story that I started with. So there is a beginning, a middle, and an end to my lectures, or at least I strive for that. Number 4, good stories. I remember this from summer camp. Good stories encourage audience participation. I always liked the stories around the campfire where we had roles to play and parts to shout out and so on. One of the things that I love in the classroom now is the use of clickers. It encourages audience participation. I often ask people questions about their attitudes or their knowledge or their behavior, and I compare the distribution of responses to the distribution of responses in national or cross-national surveys. I can do that if I find out that there's a certain distribution of sexual preferences in the classroom, for example, and I actually do this. I can compare sexual preferences in my classroom with sexual preferences in North America or cross-nationally. Students can start asking questions about why the distribution of sexual orientations is the same as or different from other parts of the world. What accounts for that? So we begin to start generating explanations in that way. So it's a very important part of the participatory flavor of the class. But also this little music routine that you saw. I try to have some of those from time to time as well. So audience participation. Fifth, I think that it's important to vary tone and style. I think that, and pace. Some parts of a lecture can be slower than others. Some parts of a lecture can be comical. Others can be dramatic. And I think that that variety, as any good storyteller will know, keeps the audience captivated. They don't quite know what's coming next. And the variety means that they're not exposed to monotone or the same kinds of ideas over and over. And finally, I think it's important to leave your audience wanting more. In other words, the whole lecture should really just provoke in the end. Just as in a good musical, you want the people to be humming the songs as they leave the theater, so in a good lecture you want the students to be talking about the material as they leave with their colleagues and wanting to find out more. So if you achieve that goal, you know that it's a good lecture. That's it. That's a good story.